The first time I saw her, she was sitting in complete stillness. Not a voluntary stillness, the kind you choose when you're thinking deeply, but the kind life forces on you. Her name was Isobel Darnley, 53, once a celebrated ceramicist with exhibitions in Paris and Edinburgh. Now, she was paralyzed from the shoulders down, the result of a sudden spinal stroke that left her body mute, but not her eyes. Her eyes could still speak. And when they locked with mine that afternoon, I heard something I hadn't heard in years. My name is Freya Morton, 27, tired, and on my third private care assignment in the past 6 months. I wasn't supposed to stay long in this seaside manor. Just a 3-month contract, temporary cover for a nurse on maternity leave. But something about the way the Atlantic wind beat against the window panes, and the way Isobel's grey eyes tracked every flicker of light across the walls, made time feel slippery the moment I arrived. "Miss Darnley doesn't talk," said the estate manager as we walked through the hall. "But she understands everything." I nodded, half listening, eyes already drifting to the towering bookshelves, the ocean view terrace, the strange silence of a home once filled with life. I wasn't nervous. I'd taken care of difficult patients before, ones who screamed, cried, cursed. But nothing prepares you for a silence that watches you. The room Isobel stayed in used to be her studio. Sunlight poured in through arched windows. Her wheelchair was angled just right toward the sea. She didn't look at me when I entered, just continued staring out. I introduced myself anyway, kept my voice soft. "Hello, Isobel. I'm Freya. I'll be looking after you." No response. Just the slow blink of someone used to being alone for too long. That evening I learned her routine. How to brush her hair. How she liked the lavender pillow spray but only if it was applied after the curtains were drawn. How she'd close her eyes if she didn't want music, and look at the record player if she did. Every little cue was a conversation, and I started to talk back. I told her about my childhood dog, about the rain in London, and why I hated umbrella thieves. I told her about my ex-girlfriend, casually, to see if it changed anything in her expression. Didn't. But I swear her eyes lingered on mine a little longer that night, and I slept too light thinking about it. Weeks passed and something shifted. It was the way she watched me move. How her gaze would flick to my hands as I brushed the crumbs off her blanket. The way her breath caught, barely, when I tucked a strand of her silver hair behind her ear. I told myself I was imagining it. But then one afternoon, as I read from her favorite poetry book, Sappho translated by Anne Carson, her lip twitched, just slightly, but it was a smile. I'd never wanted to see a smile so badly in my life. That night I stayed after my shift ended. We listened to the sea in silence. I sat close enough that I could see the flecks of green in her eyes. And I whispered something I shouldn't have. "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." She didn't blink. Her breath hitched, and something inside me began unraveling. Terrified, foolish, and very alive. I left before I did anything stupid. But when I turned back at the door, she was still watching me. Still silent. Still listening. Still hers. The next morning, I arrived earlier than usual. I told myself it was because of the tides. I wanted to catch the sunrise over the cliffside. But really, I needed to see her. Isobel. I couldn't sleep the night before. My thoughts kept playing tricks, replaying her face when I whispered those words. "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." She didn't blink, didn't flinch. But something passed between us, and I needed to know if I imagined it. When I stepped into her room, the blinds were half drawn, and her gaze was already waiting. Soft, steady, unreadable. A part of me hoped she'd forgotten. The bigger part hoped she hadn't. "Morning," I said, setting the tea on the side table. brought chamomile this time. You looked like you didn't sleep either." She blinked once. I was starting to learn her language. 1 blink, yes. No. 3 maybe. A long stare, no blink. That meant she was deciding if she trusted me. I brushed her hair as the sunlight crept across the floor. Her silver strands were soft between my fingers. I spoke gently. "I shouldn't have said that yesterday." No response. I mean, should've. Meant it. "But I'm not sure if it was fair to you." Still nothing. But I could feel her watching my hands as they moved. The way her fingers twitched slightly in her lap, involuntary. She hadn't moved her arms in 2 years. But there was something about today. Her skin had a glow. Her eyes had a spark. That afternoon, during our usual music session, she surprised me. As Nina Simone played, her gaze shifted to the drawer beside her. Slowly, deliberately. "You want something from there." Blink. Opened it. Inside was a small leather notebook. I lifted it carefully. "You want me to read this?" 2 blinks. "Well, you want me to write in it?" 1 blink. I sat beside her, notebook on my lap. There was already handwriting in it, hers. Loose, elegant cursive before the stroke. Then, after the middle pages, blank. I held the pen between her fingers and mine. Guided them together. Her hand limp in mine, but her eyes, oh, her eyes, followed every motion. Slowly, deliberately, I wrote, "Are you angry with me for what I said?" Her gaze didn't waver. Then gently she blinked once. "Well." Relief washed through me like a storm breaking. I took her hand again. This time I didn't pretend it was just about writing. I just held it. "I don't know what this is," I whispered. "But I want to know you. Not just care for you. I want to see all the parts of you no one else does." Her lip trembled. Not from pain. And I knew then I wasn't projecting. There was something growing between us. Quiet as the tide. Strong as the undertow. That evening I stayed late again. This time, she motioned for the balcony doors to be opened. I wheeled her outside, a blanket over her legs, and we watched the stars bloom one by one. "I used to believe love had to come with fire," I said. "But maybe this, whatever we're building, maybe this is better." The wind swept her hair across her cheek. I tucked it back. My fingers lingered. She didn't blink. And I felt it. An electricity between us, even without touch. A hum beneath skin, beneath silence. Something real. Something terrifying. Something we'd have to face soon. Because if I didn't stop myself, I was going to fall completely in love with a woman who could never hold me back. But her gaze already had me in its arms. And I didn't want to be let go. The storm rolled in fast that night. Thick sheets of rain pounded the glass, turning the sea into a furious blur. Thunder cracked somewhere over the cliffs, and the power flickered once, then went out entirely. Emergency lights cast long shadows across the hallways. I was still in my scrubs, standing in Isobel's room, heart thudding. I'd planned to say goodnight. Instead I stayed. She didn't look afraid, but I could see it in the way her eyes moved. Faster than usual, scanning the dark, flicking toward the window and back to me. Her whole world was the view and my presence. And without the lights, there was only me. "I'll stay," I said, crossing to her. "They'll fix the generator soon. But I'm not leaving you in the dark." She blinked once, slow, heavy. I pulled the chair beside her, lit one of the small candles from the drawer. Emergency only, but tonight it felt like ritual. Her face flickered gold in the flame. The shadows softened the sharpness of her jaw, made her look younger. Or maybe it was just the way I looked at her now. We sat in silence, the thunder distant now. Rain still tapping like fingertips on the windowpane. "I dreamt of you last night," I said. My voice felt strange in the quiet, too full of honesty. "You weren't in the chair. You were dancing, spinning barefoot in the rain. You had clay on your hands, and you laughed at me when I slipped." She didn't blink, just stared. Then one tear slid down her cheek, and I couldn't pretend anymore. I reached for her gently, cupped her face. My thumb wiped the tear before it fell. "I want to kiss you," I said, my voice trembling. "I know you can't say yes the way most people do. But if you don't want this, I'll stop. Just blink twice." He didn't. Not once. So I leaned forward slowly, holding the moment between breath and heartbeat. Our lips met barely. The lightest graze. But it was real. Electric. Her whole body didn't move, but I felt the tremor in her breath. The soft sound she made in the back of her throat. Like something blooming after a long, cold winter. I pulled back, my forehead against hers. "You don't have to be able to hold me," I whispered. "You already do." That night, I slept on the small couch near her bed. Not for duty. Not because of the storm. But because something had shifted. Something we couldn't take back. And I didn't want to. When I woke in the morning, the storm had passed. The room was filled with light again. She was awake already, eyes on me. And for the first time since I met her, she smiled. Not a twitch, not a suggestion. A full, unmistakable smile. Felt like sunrise. And I knew then, I wasn't just falling in love. Already had. Weeks passed after that night, each day weaving a thread tighter between us. Isobel had always been still, always silent. But now, the air between us was filled with meaning. It lived in the music she asked for with the tilt of her eyes, in the poems I read aloud, in the way she watched me when I washed her hair like she was memorizing every part of me. She was still paralyzed, but I was the one who felt breathless. The hardest part was pretending everything was the same. The estate manager still walked through once a week, her heels clicking over the polished floor, reminding me that this was still a job, that I was a paid caretaker. And Isobel Darnley was still a woman with no legal voice and a family that had all but vanished since the stroke. But behind the closed door, in the quiet world we built, it didn't feel like a job. Felt like home. One morning, she motioned again to the leather notebook. We hadn't touched it since that stormy night. I brought it to her, opened it. This time I didn't guide her fingers. I just let her look. And then she blinked fast 3 times. Maybe what? So I wrote, "Are you asking if I love you?" She blinked once. I stared at her, then picked up the pen again. "I do. Entirely. Unreasonably. Completely." She blinked slowly, as if taking it in like medicine. Then, for the first time, she signaled something new. A long blink, followed by her gaze shifting to the door. Then the window. Then back to me. Request. She wanted to go out. I bundled her in her softest scarf, wheeled her slowly down the gravel path toward the cliff overlook. The air was cold, but the sun was strong. Typical Cornwall spring. When we reached the edge, the sea stretched endlessly, bright and alive. She was quiet a long time, looking out. Then her gaze turned to me. Intense. Focused. So I leaned close. "What is it?" She blinked once. Then again. Then didn't stop. Tears streamed down her face and she didn't look away. Not for a second. I knelt, held her hand with both of mine. "Tell me." And then I understood. She was afraid. Afraid this would end. That this wasn't real. That I'd leave like everyone else. "No," I whispered. "You don't have to be afraid. I'm not going anywhere." Her head tilted the smallest degree. Disbelief. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a small card I'd printed the night before. The logo of a private care co-op. My name on the bottom. I quit yesterday. Her breath caught. I'm not your nurse anymore, I said softly. I'm just someone who wants to wake up in the same house as you, read poems to you, grow old next to you, even if you've already started. You've given me more than anyone else ever has. Without words, without arms. She closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, it was like the whole sea reflected in them. That night, we slept in the same room for the first time. My bed moved beside hers. I held her hand through the night. I kissed her cheek when she drifted to sleep. And every morning after that, I woke to her smile. Some people love through touch, some through words. But what we had, it lived in the spaces between all of that. She was still paralyzed, but I wasn't, so I moved for the both of us. And she loved for the both of us. And together that was enough.